What are the ultimate frugal homemaker kitchen essentials? Today, we're going over those. If you are new to my channel, I'm Ina Cecilia with The Little Way. I offer encouragement to women, especially Catholic wives and mothers who are just trying to figure it out just like me. Even if you are not a Catholic wife and mother, stick around because I think that you'll appreciate this video. If you are a new homemaker and you have no idea, you're starting from scratch, or maybe you feel like you have way too much stuff and this kind of video offers you inspiration so you can really pare down and eliminate the things that you don't need, then this is definitely something you'll want to watch. You may want to pass this along to a new bride or someone you know who is getting started on their journey. This may be a good video for college students, or they don't even have to be women. Maybe your son, he is a sophomore at university and he is moved into his very first apartment. And these are some good essentials that if you're on a budget, it's especially important to know that most of these things you can get thrifted or secondhand or at garage sales, and you can get them super cheap. You don't have to get a new La Creuset set or buy everything brand new, and they will serve you just fine if you know what to look for. I'm not going to go into the nitty-gritty about quality about some of these items because there are some things where you really just have to go off of brands and recommendations from family and friends. I can provide some of those, but others, it doesn't really matter. You find out over time, or you just realize that when you do a lot of cooking, that you are going to have some things wear and tear, break, get lost, and that's just the nature of it. So this is not meant to be an all-extensive forever. You're going to have these things your entire life, but a lot of these things, if you take care of them, you'll notice you will have for years and years and years. If you have any suggestions, please add them in the comments. There may be something I'm forgetting. I did a general look at my pantry and where I keep all my cooking tools, and that helped me remember things. But what I thought to myself is if I can't even remember it, then it must not be that important and I must not use it all the time. And I think that's something that we should think about is if you are thinking right now in your head, what do I need? There are going to be some obvious things that you don't even have to write down or look up, like a skillet, like a pot or a pan, like a spatula. And there are going to be other things that you will realize over time you like them and others you don't. So one example is over time, I have finally let go of my stubborn ways and I invested in a kitchen scale because I wanted to make sourdough and I really wanted to turn out right. And when I was not confident, I felt like a scale made me feel like it was going to turn out better than if I just did measuring with cups, because that's what all the pros on the internet seem to say. But for years and years and years, I got by just fine using standard measuring cups and measuring bowls and spoons. Now I love that having a kitchen scale, I spent maybe $20 on it and I only have to wash one bowl because I measure everything in the one bowl. I don't have to use a spoon here and a bowl there. So you learn those things over time. But before I get into the list, I want to tell you a little bit about my history so that you know where I'm coming from. I am a wife of 10 years. I have 4 children with one on the way. We cook 3 meals, almost all of them from scratch, 7 days a week. We maybe have a rest day where we will just do ramen or hot dogs, where could I call that cooking from scratch? No, but we cook from home. And so, my oven, if you watch videos in the past week or two, I was talking about how my oven broke and it was overdue, especially because appliances, if they were made in the past, let's say 10 years, they're not lasting too long, as opposed to the ones that our moms and our grandmas had that lasted 30 years. So considering the fact that I make that many meals, I was expecting a 6-year oven to break. So that should tell you how much cooking I do. Is I broke my oven after 5 years of using it every single day. And, we hate eating out. So I tried to invest in things in my kitchen. And by invest, I don't mean I am going to spend a ton of money. I mean, I'm going to buy the things that not only make it enjoyable to cook at home, but, it makes it possible, period. It makes it so that I'm not having to run to this McDonald's drive-thru. I hate the drive-thru. I hate fast food, but I can still enjoy things like French fries. If I want to, I can still make a meal that feeds my entire family and I'm not breaking the budget. And so I know a lot of those who are watching, you're also thinking about how this is going to help you with your budget. So you want the right tools, because if you have the right things, then you won't feel like, oh no, I really wanted to make ice cream, but I didn't have the right supplies. And now I'm spending $7 on a gallon of ice cream. Or, that was probably not a good example, but you learn things over time that you realize, since you already have all the tools, maybe it's getting one ingredient, or maybe it's just a little bit of work one afternoon, and you can get by instead of having to spend tens, hundreds, thousands of dollars, which really add up over time. And the more children you have, it just gets harder. So I think that's enough rambling. I'm just going to get into the list. The first thing, this probably won't surprise any true cook, is you need a good knife. Now, there are people who are really particular where they'll say things like, I need a bread knife and I need a good cleaver. Well, I have found that if it is just sharp, I had a good German Wursthof knife that I got at Marshall's or TJ Maxx or something. And it was serrated. I couldn't sharpen it, but that thing stayed sharp forever. And I found that having a serrated knife helped to do almost everything that I needed, as opposed to if I didn't have a serrated knife, it probably would have made things like cutting into bread more difficult. So if I were to pick one knife, I'd probably go with a serrated again. But now I have one or two knives that I use all the time that they are just tried and true. They're sharp and they just cut into meats, breads, pastries, anything that I need. But I don't have a whole block with a bunch of different knives. I feel like the more knives, cutlery, plates, all those that you have, if you don't have a good dishwashing routine, you just end up throwing everything in the sink or in the dishwasher and getting a new one and getting a new one, and then you end up with nothing. So I'd rather have just one where I know it's either dirty or clean. If I don't see it in the drawer, it must be in the sink. If it's not in the sink, it's in the drawer, and it makes my life a lot simpler. It seems like a lot of cleaning, but either way, I think you do a lot of cleaning, but you go a little crazier when you have 20 knives. Okay, the next thing with a knife, a big cutting board. Now, some people think they want a small cutting board and one for meat and one for vegetables. If you just have one good solid wood cutting board, a big one that will handle all of the onions you have to cut, celery, carrots, then that will serve all of your needs. Wood naturally will disinfect itself. You do still have to clean it, but I would not worry too much about, just using common sense. Like if I'm going to cut chicken on it, then I'm going to use very hot water and thoroughly clean and dry that cutting board. I'm not just going to do a light rinse and then cut up some strawberries on it. So if you just have one good solid wood cutting board, then you will definitely be able to do everything that you need. There's two pots I wanted to mention. You definitely want a stock pot. If I were to pick any material, I would definitely go with stainless steel. It's the easiest to clean. It does the job. It doesn't have the Teflon that is going to be controversial with all the chemicals and then not last as long. So I would go with stainless steel. You want a stock pot that is big enough where you can boil potatoes and big enough to cook soups in. So I would say at least a 10 quart, if not more. And then a little sauce pot, because you don't want to waste energy just having to boil, let's say, one little pack of ramen. Can you tell I like ramen? Because I'm not a snob. I love to eat fresh and no preservatives and no chemicals in them. But with my Filipino heritage, there are going to be a few things that I just won't let go of. So if you can relate, definitely leave me a comment letting me know what your guilty pleasure is that you won't let go of in spite of the MSG or whatever it is. Okay, the thing that I have grown to love, but I will provide a little disclaimer, is a cast iron skillet. Now, the disclaimer might not be what you expect. So a lot of people talk about the maintenance of a cast iron. I don't mind the maintenance. I actually take delight in seasoning it and taking care of it. And you can get them at thrift shops. They are everywhere. People, they don't know how to use them, or they just give up, or they get a set for Christmas and then they just feel like they want to use the brand new pretty set instead of their grandma's cast iron. I will always love cast iron. If I had to pick one thing, I'd probably get one of those deeper skillets that I could still boil things in. But I would, if I needed to pick between that and like the stainless steel pots, I would pick the cast iron. But my one disclaimer is, especially since I am starting to have a few more issues with my wrists, I do a lot of typing and driving and carrying babies, and the cast iron, it can get pretty heavy. And you may see me in my videos pretend I'm not struggling to lift it, but especially because of the camera angles and with certain things. I was born left-handed, so I am more left dominant, but you can't really see it in the I wouldn't get a good shot on my camera if I use my left, so I have to awkwardly use my non-dominant hand, which makes it even more difficult with a cast iron. If you're not making YouTube videos, that's not a big deal. Anyway, cast iron is just so tried and true. It is a workhorse. It will serve you. It'll serve your great grandchildren if you take care of it. And I just love the way it cooks, the way it evenly cooks, and they're just pretty. Okay, this video is going by fast. I'm going to try to get through my list quickly. I think there are two spatulas I would invest in, a good metal one and a good silicone one. Now, the metal one, I would go with a slotted fish turner. That is one, you just want a good metal one that will flip your eggs or whatever it may be, your meats. The good silicone one will be just things for mixing or clearing, like if you're baking a cake or something, pancakes, you can get the remnants out of the bowl. So those are two things that I would not go without. On that note, you also want a set of wooden spoons. Wooden spoons, I use them every single day, and I really don't care if they get old and I have to replace them because I just love what they do for me. You want a good whisk. Even if you don't like baking, I think down the road you will start experimenting, especially if cooking becomes your labor of love and you notice that you're going to be going to more potlucks and church outings. You're going to want a whisk so that you can whip up cupcakes. You can whip up pancakes for pancake breakfast. And a whisk goes a long way because at the beginning, especially when you don't have a lot of money, you can do everything by hand. It'll just take you a little longer and your arms will get tired, but then you'll be a lot more toned. So you'll thank me later. I went a really long time without a stand mixer. And what I find it funny is in one of my most popular videos, everyone couldn't stop commenting on my stand mixer and how could, a family on such a meager income afford that. Well, it took me a very, very, very long time. 8 years to save for that thing. So for so long, I had cakes and cookies and things that were not as evenly distributed, and they didn't turn out as good, and they took me 3 times as long to make because I would just do things by hand with a whisk. You will also want a large mixing bowl. If you can get one with a lid, that is even better. So if you're proofing pizza doughs or if you are letting bread rise, it just makes it better, but I wouldn't say it's necessary. But a good mixing bowl, either like a milk bowl or a stainless steel one, works perfect. I will definitely recommend a cookie sheet. It's not just if you like to bake cookies, it's if you want to bake your meats. And along that note, muffin tins, it's not just about baking muffins and cupcakes. You may have seen in one of my last videos, I made these meatloaf muffins that were really good for on the go and just getting some protein in. I personally would recommend a cake tin because there's a lot of things you can bake in it. Now, I might even take it as far as saying, you might want a 9x13 glass Pyrex dish so you can make casseroles and baked suppers, baked breakfasts. But if you are on a budget, even just a 9-inch round cake tin, and if you have a small family, like it's just you and your husband, or your husband and a baby, then those little cake tins will suffice for making some of those things. I know it's controversial when it comes to aluminum and some of these metals, but the point of my video is not to talk about all things that are super earth environment conscious or things that are going to be healthiest in terms of cookware. We're talking about if you have a budget and you just have $1 and you're at the thrift store and there is a cake tin, then that is definitely a good investment. You'll also want a rolling pin. I'm telling you, I know you've seen multiple videos where I've made homemade pizza. you can't go back once you have made your own pizza. But it's also good for pies, and yeah, there's lots of things you can do with a rolling pin. Also use it to, if let's say have, I don't do this often, but if I like to pound down my meat, like my chicken breasts or something, it's good for that instead of getting a whole separate meat hammer or whatever you call it. See, I don't even know what it's called. You definitely want a big strainer for spaghetti and vegetables. I wouldn't worry about getting those special ones that fit perfectly in the pots for steaming. Those are things that can come later. You can make do. There's different ways to do it, like microwaving to get that steam, or yeah, there's lots of different things you can do, but you definitely want a big strainer for those big pots of pasta. And measuring spoons and measuring cups. You'll want those because when you're a new cook or when you are not as confident, you'll want to go by the recipe until you're able to figure it out. The measuring cups are also good because you can use them to scoop out soups and different things instead of having separate spoons for that. You also need a box grater so that you can grate cheese and butter and all the good things, lemon zest. I can't live without my cheese grater. You'll want a vegetable peeler because a vegetable peeler, you're going to peel potatoes, you're going to want to grate your carrots. Yeah, it's just really useful for a lot of things. A can opener, that's a must. I probably didn't need to tell you that because if you're new to cooking, you probably do eat a lot of stuff with a can. I would go with some good metal tongs because when you're flipping bigger meats, those are way more helpful and you feel more confident than a spatula. I like my silicone pastry brush. I would say it's an essential because if you want to put a nice little egg wash to brown something, it just looks better and it has a nice crust. And then these things, some people may laugh, but air fryer, like I said, I don't like going through a drive-through. I hate the cost and I don't like the way it tastes anymore. So having an air fryer, I can just have my little fixes like my, French fries or my chicken nuggets that I like from time to time. You'll want a blender. Those are very inexpensive. You will want to upgrade down the road because there is a difference in quality, but you can get by with a simple $20 Oster blender or those cheaper brands. And then salt and pepper and oil. Those are some pantry essentials. If you want me to do a pantry essentials video, leave me a comment to let me know. I would be happy to tell you what are essentials in my pantry. And if I was starting from scratch as a newlywed, what I would want in a completely empty house, empty kitchen. And of course, a coffee maker. No one will be surprised to hear me say that. Things for later. Electric mixer, start with a hand mixer, then go with a stand one. Trust me, it will just level up all of your baking. I would go with an ice cream scoop and a cookie scoop for your just better portions. For things like baking, it made all the difference in my presentation too when I finally bit the bullet and got those things. Cookie cutters, an immersion blender, a potato masher, a grain mill, and a dehydrator. The list can go on and on. I could go on and on, but the point is, it sounds like a long list, but really, you need so few things. If you want a copy of this list, I have a link below so you can get this PDF. I hope that I have blessed you because ultimately, if you have what you need, trust in the Lord and some good tools, you can feed an army, and it just takes being able to read a recipe and give a little love, and you can do it. Thank you for joining me. I hope to see you in my next video. God bless.